how that would work out is that New Mutants job, which started out in the dumpster. New Mutants was a fixer-upper. I was offered it under the, auspices that it was going to be canceled if it wasn't turned around because
you did it with New Mutants. New Mutants was the
that's my inspiration.
But that was the bottom of the payoff of the X-Men before you took over, wasn't it? It was kind of, I think it was.
Hey Rob, do whatever you want. We're going to cancel it if it doesn't work. They're like, Rob, here's your fixer-upper. It was a shanty house. I mean, I was showing my buddy the other day because there's issues in one of the last crossovers. That they did, like all the mutants or Inferno. I got the omnibus. And look, there was a character named Birdbrain. You know what? I'm going to show you.
Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and today I am doing a video about the New Mutants. Now, we have the uber successful facsimile of New Mutants 98, right? That pushed this to a top 10 book. And then we have the classic one that kind of one of the most memorable artists on the New Mutants, which was Arthur Adams. One of the others would be Bill Sienkiewicz. We also have the artist before Arthur Adams, Bret Blevins. Now, with the success of Liefeld on the book, it sort of eclipsed the New Mutants before that and said everything before this was not working. Right? A lot of fans disliked this art for some strange reason. And this is a tough one. So I'm not sure I want to handle it. So I showed you, I guess I go through the history. Through many podcasts by Rob saying that the New Mutants was close to cancellation, right? But to give you an idea of what's going on with the New Mutants, this obviously was big for the New Mutants. This is like around issue 30. This is around issue 30. So this book is like a top 10, top 20 book. At this point, whenever there was a crossover, the New Mutants would be a top 10 book. So for the Mutants, it would be a top 10 book. And then Inferno, it was a top 10 book, right? So you have that to keep in mind. And not only that, but the issue after that, Magneto versus the Black King, was like a top 5 book, right? This was one of the top sellers, having the two of them. So this is issue 75, and Rob's first issue is like 86, but he did covers for I think 85, right? So not to say, Rob definitely took the book and he propelled it to be a really happening book, but somehow it's now about to be canceled, right? So that's why I'm here talking to you guys about the book that came before it, the run that came before it, right? And do I have a certificate of ownership in here? I hope it would be. But ultimately, there was, what was it? Was there? No, there was an Acts of Vengeance that was going on, right? That Rob was starting. So I don't know if I should do this one, but this is kind of the template. Whereas Bret Blevins doesn't exactly draw exactly like Arthur Adams, but he did the kids like Arthur Adams, whereas the girls are, gorgeous, heroic girls. It's inked by Terry Austin. It's possibly the best work they did together. And Loki is interested in Storm, and Chantis is going to help him out with that. we get the New Mutants. So Arthur Adams did great kids, right? And one of the things that the editorial was struggling with was that when Chris Claremont kept pushing them to get older, and like just can't wait for them to become adults. The editorial was like, they kind of should stay kids. You don't want them to just grow up already, right? So they all kind of look like kids, like not necessarily scrawny, but you know, they kind of look like kids. And Arthur Adams is probably one of the best to do it, of drawing kids. Like, look at that, having the girlish face with the lighting, that sort of thing, just to give you an idea. But that's not where we're here. We'll get to that at some other point. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't do it, right? So we're gonna go to the Mac Daddy of issues, the one that you guys, cool, that's the other point why I started doing this video. Because I think at the beginning of this video, I'm gonna have this clip in there. Bird brain, right? That the New Mutants had bird brain in the group, right? And saying that how off the mark the book was by having a character like bird brain in there. Like, obviously that doesn't compare, but it was just a character to get them to here. The bird brain is with the team for maybe like a 6-issue period, and then as seen here, the New Mutants leave bird brain, right, with the other animal creatures, right? So, and of course, there was spoilers right here. The most memorable story in this run is possibly the Poor Dead Doug's story, right? So there we go. We gave you precursor. We're not going to look at that yet, but we're going to look at the Mac Daddy. And I don't know if you guys can't talk to me, so if you could, I'll crack open the X-Force. So let's look at this one. This is the ultimate, well, this penultimate before X-Force, so what happened before, right? So for me, I kind of looked at Arthur Adams. There was a bunch of pages that he had done, pinups that were just like Arthur Adams. Rob Liefeld, there was a bunch of pinups that were just like Arthur Adams, just bulked up. It was kind of as if Arthur Adams went through a Kirby period and every character got bulked up, right? So he didn't have the basic drawing. This character here, Deadpool, kind of looks like cross from a bunch of characters, but you have Snake Eyes and you have this character that was in Alpha Flight called Nemesis. It kind of looks more like that. It has the same colors as Nemesis, has a sword. Well, Nemesis had swords, but like Snake Eyes had swords and guns, right? And pouches, right? So Domino is here and Gideon. Rob Liefeld wasn't here long enough to really develop Gideon, and he kind of gets tossed to the wayside once he's gone. So, but Deadpool, of course, is the most memorable. Got Cable here. This is basically using the layout from Man of Steel. You have the character here, and then you have something on the side. But this is kind of mashing like a Marvel cover, people looking at someone and having those guys here. So we get to Gideon, and it looks like it's going to be a training sequence. So at this point, Louise Simonson is out. She's out. I'm not sure how or what happened, but she's out, and now Fabian Nicieza is scripting, right? And say training sequence, right? So we'll turn this like this for now, right? So Robert's doing plot and art, Fabian Nicieza is doing script, and we have it now. One of the things, whereas it's a dynamic shot, I guess he's supposed to be punching this guy. You have it here. He punches this guy. So I guess he kind of leaped in the air. So I guess that kind of works, right? Maybe. Then we got the nice close-ups here. So Rob does his, this was kind of closing out the butt. It's just sort of jumps and not logical jumps, right? Somehow it gets to someone's foot and hitting that one into the other one, right? So some of the pages just kind of look dynamic, but the storytelling isn't always there, right? And the perspective, of course, is not there, but there's energy in Rob's work, right? So after this training sequence, he says, have her proceed with plan, right? Yes. Has Eve in place, and then next thing you know, we cut and we see the New Mutants in the training sequence, right? So they're working with Cable, and this Cable is a lot tougher than who is it? How Louise Simonson was scripting them. This is closer to how, who was it? Chris Claremont kind of scripted him. That he was kind of tough as nails, man of mystery. And this page looked like it was inked by Joseph Rubinstein. And this is taking the Dark Knight approach where they're soldiers, right? So here we have Eve, right? He brings something over. She has a devilish smile. And it's not really the strongest pages of doing this sort of quiet scene and having the emotion of it, but the lighting and the mood kind of sells the scenes. But it's kind of, who is it? This is Sunspot's father, and he is given some sort of poison. And then we have Richter. Richter's worried about Rainey, right? So he's going to try to figure out what's going on with her. And he's going to find her, and she's like, nope, what's Cable going to say? Right? And while that happens, Deadpool comes out of nowhere, right? It says Mr. Tolliver. So there's a lot of setup for this stuff, kind of no payoff, because there's no backstory, no nothing. It's just, I thought it was Boom Boom attacking him, right? So Tolliver and Cable have a connection, but Deadpool and Cable don't have a connection, right? So they get into this kind of shouting match, and while he has the drop on him, somehow, well, this shows speed at least. And instead of Cable, he's calling him Nathan, right? But he has this thing to kind of take out. I don't know why it takes out Cannonball, but it goes to his field and drops him. But at the same time, Cable gets his shots in. And tosses a knife at him. And that drops Cable, but then Richter comes in to help. Then he throws out another line, and that somehow immediately catches Richter. And then he's got a few of them down, but at the same time, I don't know what happened. It says thunk, 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 and Deadpool is down. And this other character that's on the cover, she pops up out of nowhere, right? She's Domino, and says that she's babysitting, right? So they had Deadpool captured, right? See, like, there's a new demeanor in Cable with her around. She's kind of looking into the characters. And this is where we kind of say that these characters, I thought they were coming back. But I didn't sign up for all these good characters like Amara and Shan and Danny. Rest of these kids I liked, but not at the expense of the regular New Mutants. But then he's going off to save Rainey. And at the same time, Gideon, who's in the beginning, this is the only storytelling moment in here, right? Gideon at the beginning sneaks in and says, your father's dead, right? And to be continued. That's a 3-part story, right? To close out the New Mutants, right? So you see the pinnacle of the New Mutants. So since we got to there, let's do the period before. So we'll see what. So instead of doing the bird brain, let's see what was going on here, because let's put it as the blame to this, right? So we have the Freedom Force versus the New Mutants, right? In their graduate outfits, right? And in this, the Fall of Mutants happened, and it's the Fall of the Mutants. No, yeah, the Fall of Mutants happened, and Illyana blames Forge and wants to kill him, right? And Terry Austin also inked this, right? And at this point, since the X-Men have died, Magneto's like, they're not going out anywhere, right? And Bret is a little wide, but they definitely look like young people. And as the argument ensues, Magic teleports out of there, right? But Magneto's like, they're not going anywhere. So he goes to Scotland to see Kitty Pryde. They have an emotional moment. And they're talking about stuff. And of course, she brings up she's going to kill Forge. And Kitty's against it. They go back and forth. And then Illyana breaks out because she's not happy with Kitty at this point. So to see like the emotion that we got into this right here, her madness, her sadness, right? Being able to do simple and small things and everyone look like kids, right? And this is what the editorial was saying. They were getting a little long in the tooth to be Xavier's students, so they needed to be young again. So they made him young. They found out great art. I think Mark Silvestri was supposed to take it over, but he asked for the X-Men, right? So they see Illyana trying to get her gear, and they join her, and they're in Belasco's area. But this is leading up to the next story, which is what's the Inferno. But there are going to be some hints in here, right? So they're having this talk, trying to talk her out of it. It's not really working out too well. She's getting dressed, and she's going to handle action. And then they're going to come with her anyway. right? So she gets in their graduate outfits, and she takes on something close. She pulls a soul sword and gets her. She's almost at her Dark Child stage, but at the same time, we see Sim and other characters from Blasco's area kind of infected with the transmode virus, which is going to lead to what's that thing? It's going to lead to Inferno, right? So they go. The Freedom Force is with Forge, and Ileana's not having it. So one of the things that was make mistake on did for good story, but it was a mistake to make Ileana a baby, right? She gets taken out, but then the New Mutants have to go and help, right? And they get into a fight with all the Freedom Force, and it's good that he does wides because you can see all the action. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of cool stuff here. He's a little wide with stuff, and the backdrops don't always look like it's they look like kind of in the desert here, but otherwise the storytelling and the action, everything is visible, right? Which is always good. And then we see she has a vision that these monsters are going to come out here, and they see her in the Dark Child form. She's found where Forge is, but Destiny realizes something terrible is coming, right? So let's check this next one out. So, in all intents and purposes, there's nothing really wrong with this art. I love this guy's art. I don't know why fans flipped out, but we got Terry Austin inking. We have this nice meeting between Forge and her, right? She takes ready to take out her pain on him. All right? They're trying to talk her out of it. And they realize that inanimate stuff is starting to interact. And they see that the world's getting a little messed up at this period. I'm not sure that this is the way to go. Now, this kind of thing of having Ford being a sorcerer, besides being a mutant that can make anything, is a little too much. But I mean, it was set up in the Fall of the Mutants, so what can I do to it, right? She's trying to take out him, but we see Cannonball's here to help, but she can also teleport, and teleports Forge into Belasco's room and finally stop her teammates, and she starts changing into Dark Child. But at the same time, Forge has some knowledge of the mystic arts, which he really uses only when he needs to, for some strange reason, right? So he needs it now, so of course he puts on this armor and he's fighting with her. In this book, this stuff is really gorgeous, right? But we see have some motivation, we have some setup, we know what's going on, right? We have this big battle with all this cool stuff in it. And later on in this series, Al Williamson inks also, and Dark Child gets in. It's just ready to take him out. And she sees she's becoming Dark Child. All right. But the creatures are trying to get her to keep going forward. And she realized she has to save her friends and stop worrying about Forge. She's captured Forge and drops him off. And then she's upset with herself because she didn't kill him, right? And we see Magneto in his villain costume, but we get to, what is this character? Is this going to be, oh yeah, Gossamer. Like, she's gorgeous. She joins the team for a little while. So there we go. Got two examples of Bret Blevins, who people for some reason expressed their hate on Facebook for years, but he's a great artist. Well, in my opinion, he's a great artist. What else can I say? I do have some books he recently did here before I close this out. I think it's called Stellar. That was a gorgeous book. Here we go. I don't know. I think he came on the scene with the Boz Chronicles. Right, this book here. And basically, he hasn't stopped being a great artist. From then, he still got it, right? He's still a great artist. So, yeah, it's not a straight run of the New Mutants issues, but I was checking this out up until they went into Asgard. I really didn't want the New Mutants to go to Asgard, but I was checking it out. It had some decent art, and I guess that's about it. But don't let your fear of bird brain keep you away from this stuff, because bird brain doesn't stay there for that long. It's like a 6-issue thing where they kind of play with this character who's kind of like, you know, like Warlock, but in a different way, right? Right? So there we go. New Mutants. I say check it out. I would say the hard part for me in the New Mutants run is, I guess, Liefeld stuff, but it had promise. And after Sienkiewicz, where it seemed like Arthur Adams should have taken over, but he didn't. But if you look at the early stuff that Bob McLeod did, he did some nice stuff in there. He's really strong at drawing children. Sal Buscema does some good stuff in there. Obviously, Bill Sienkiewicz, I don't think the stories are kind of my cup of tea, but the art is gorgeous and some great stuff in there. And then I think Jackson Geist comes in some point later. But the book was kind of in, you know, it went from being almost the lead book when Bill Sienkiewicz was on there to when Magneto comes on it kind of takes a back seat to the X-Men again, right? But, yeah, I don't know what else to tell you guys. Don't listen to Bird Brain. Deadpool might be a better character than Bird Brain, but look at this. You have stuff afterwards that's cool. And you have the whole Inferno stuff. If you like Inferno, then this whole thing of Magneto going bad again, that's a long subplot that's going on in there. And ultimately, by when they finally come back, the New Mutants connect, I think in issue 85, connect with X Factor, which is something that should have happened years ago. The original X-Men meeting the New Mutants, which is something that Louise Simonson did. Which, you know, she carried the torch. She was a little on the burn side of unforgiving with the characterization, where nobody gets out alive and characters would move on. But still a good read nonetheless. Spin Rack out.